has basically been completed to the media on December 8th. We did this for a couple of reasons. Number one, to celebrate that opening. But number two, we want to give the public a look on the inside of what it takes to run a transit system on a given day. And so we invited the media in. Chairman Francisco Heredia from Mesa also spoke. I would like to say that we had a very, very positive experience, a lot of good press, a lot of live broadcasts, and also some lead stories and evening news. Thank you to Dan Filipino and Rob Rosenberg, our two deputy directors in operations over operations and maintenance, who led the media on a tour. Just to give you a little bit of information, that the OMC expansion was basically over 2 buildings and a lot of track. 35,000 square feet, or basically an acre under roof, was added to the maintenance equipment building. About 25,000 square feet was added to the maintenance of way. We almost doubled the amount of storage track we had. And the reason for this is not only to take care of what we have now, but planning for future expansion of our rail and streetcar system, which by 2024, from the day we've opened, will almost have doubled the amount of track that we have. So a very, very good day. Thanks to Valley Metro staff, Hillary Foose and her staff, for making this possible. Next thing is, next one, for the fourth year, 5 years since we started it, we had a very successful Mesa Santa Express, where we across 2 weekends in December, Valley Metro and the city of Mesa hosted the Mesa Santa Express. We gave over 3,500 families a free holiday experience, positive interaction with our trains. We've been doing this since 2017. It's become a tradition, holiday tradition for families in Mesa and East Valley. Last year we didn't do it because of COVID. This year we did it in a different way, and hope that we created a safe situation. But thanks to our team of volunteers, operations, security staff, those volunteers, and from ACI, our light rail contractor, that made this successful. Look forward to doing it again next year. Next. Before we get on to this, I wanted to go over a little bit of a challenge that we're having and give you an update on our operational issues. Like I think everybody in the world, we have been impacted by COVID and by staffing. We've been extremely fortunate, knock on wood, in the 2 years that we've been operating under a COVID protocol, that we've had limited impact on our personnel. We've been able to put service out. Thank heavens, from a health standpoint, our staff has avoided widespread infections and disruptions. And this has begun to change with the Omicron virus, the Omicron variant. And just to give you an idea, and this will have the one area that we get impacted when we have staffing issues is in the amount of service we put out. Obviously, if we don't have operators and maintenance people to be able to make our vehicles, both on the bus and rail side, if they're not there to man the spots, the only option we have is to not put the bus or the train out on the street. To give you an example, in the first 9 months of January, from September of 2021, we averaged around 70,000 bus trips per month, 70,000. And we averaged a little over 20 missed trips per month of that 70,000. So really a minuscule amount of trips that we were unable to complete because for a variety of reasons. In October and November, we saw a marked increase in the amounts of trips we could not complete, almost exclusively caused by staff shortages. In October, November, it jumped from up to over 400, and November over 700. That's still a very small percentage, about 1/10% of the 70,000 that we do a month. But obviously, those 700 missed trips affect our riders, and we are having difficulties, as I've said, as everybody is, in attracting and holding new hires. We are finding ourselves about 15% short on the number of operators that we would like to have. Same thing with supervisors, and in our customer service and mechanics, we are short. We are working with our contractors to be very aggressive in our recruitment efforts. We're offering up to $3,000 in signing bonuses. We've increased the wages for entry-level workers to what we believe is competitive wage. We are doing what we can to truly respond to these challenges, but I just want to let you know that we are still facing difficulties, and we anticipate that until this virus, this variant, at least, of this virus slows down or somehow passes, that we will continue to have these kind of disruptions. So just wanted to let you know that we're keeping your staff appraised and involved in these ongoing discussions, and just let you know that it has begun to affect us. Looking forward, we have meetings of the Audit and Finance Subcommittee, Board of Directors, and in February, our next meeting will be on February 2nd. So, Mr. Chair, that is my report.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We'll now move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is presented for action. Are there any committee members have any questions or items that need to be pulled for separate discussion at this time? If not, we'll request a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda and forward it to the Board of Directors for approval. We'll also have a new process for voting. Pat, correct? We will do a roll call vote. So I first need a motion and a second, and then we'll do a roll call vote. So do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
It's Roger. I move approval.
All right.
Mike, try second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second for approval. Pat will take a roll call now.
City of Avondale. City of Buckeye.
Aye.
City of Chandler.
Yes.
City of El Mirage. Town of Fountain Hills. Town of Gilbert. City of Glendale.
Aye.
City of Goodyear.
Aye.
Maricopa County.
Aye.
City of Mesa.
Aye.
City of Peoria.
Yes.
City of Phoenix.
Aye.
Town of Queen Creek.
Aye.
City of Scottsdale.
Aye.
City of Surprise.
Yes.
City of Tempe.
Yes.
Chair, I believe the motion passes.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you for the roll call. We will now move to item 4, travel expenditures and solicitations. This item is presented for information only. Are there any questions? If not, we'll move to item 5, future agenda items and requests to report on current events. Are there any agenda items that members would like to place in a future meeting? If not, just to remind everyone, as was mentioned just previously, the next meeting of the TMC RMC is scheduled for Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022 at 11 a.m. I almost read what it said. Okay, so we're now moving to the Transit Management Committee, and we'll convene that meeting now and welcome all members to the meeting. The public will be provided an opportunity this time to address the committees on non-agenda items and all action items. Up to 3 minutes will be provided per speaker unless the chair allows more at his or her discretion. A total of 15 minutes for all speakers will be provided. Pat, do we have anyone for public comment?
I'm at the podium.
Sir Ali, please continue.
Thank you. On your agenda item 2D, it's recommended service changes and it's got the Zoom circulator in here. Well, on the last vote, it was, I noted that there were some of the communities that weren't saying anything. Well, if Fountain Hills would have known that in Prop 400, Fountain Hills was supposed to have a circulator way, way, a long time ago and a connector into the system. Now, I know that his participation now is to help move those things along, but they were curved 15, 20 years ago. But that is then and this is now. And then it's also, you've got as B, East Valley Fixed Route Bus Service. I note that on the mixed use of the Tempe trolley, that they're saying, hey, let's extend out to Sloan Park. And I go, oh my God, they would want to put a trolley there where they don't even have a bus yet, even though seeing that the trolley is something that should be doing and happening, and the expansions and the recommended service changes and that's not what is happening. When I see that you say that you're having to do everything always within budget, and that back in, what did you say, Mr. Smith, 09, we changed everything up because it wasn't going to be happening. The expansions of service to make the grid happen, which the public had put together, are what? As I stated about Fountain Hills, a long, long time ago, you were supposed to have connecting bus service to the multiple of communities, and it was to go from your place to downtown, not just down into the East Valley. Why these things don't happen, I don't understand. I also look at Lincoln and Glendale Avenue. Connects Scottsdale all the way to Luke Air Force Base. But does bus service along that corridor go all the way? No. The community of Fountain Hills says, we don't want buses here, so the system has another major hole. I wish that you would people work together, be more proactive rather than reactive, and be a part of the democracy that we are doing and using today, especially you guys being so.
All right, Pat, do we have any other public comments? Oh, okay. So now we'll move to, what are we on? Item 2. So we have item, the consent item is presented for action. Are there any committee, is there anybody on the committee that has any questions or would wish that any items be pulled for separate discussion? If not, we'll request a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda to forward to the board of directors for approval. Do I have a motion?
So moved. This is Julian Goodyear.
Thank you, Julie. Do we have a second? Don't be shy.
It's Eric and Peoria. I'll second that.
Thank you, Eric. So we have a motion and a second for approval. We'll ask Pat to take a roll call vote. Pat?
City of Avondale. City of Buckeye.
Aye.
City of Chandler.
Aye.
City of El Mirage. Town of Fountain Hills.
Aye.
Town of Gilbert. City of Glendale.
Aye.
City of Goodyear.
Aye.
Maricopa County.
Aye.
City of Mesa.
Aye.
City of Peoria.
Yes.
City of Phoenix,
Aye.
Town of Queen Creek,
Aye.
City of Scottsdale,
Aye.
City of Surprise,
Yes.
and City of Tempe.
Yes.
Believe the motion passes, Chair.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, everyone. Now we'll move to item 3, future agenda items, request report on current events. Are there any members that wish to add, propose an agenda item for the future or anything they would like to inform the committee about? If not, we'll move to item 4, to remind everyone the next meeting again is Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022 at 11 a.m. All right, now we'll continue with the Rail Management Committee. We'll convene that meeting. Welcome all members to the January meeting. The public will be provided an opportunity at this time to address the committee on non-agenda items and all action agenda items. Up to 3 minutes will be provided per speaker unless the chair allows more at his or her discretion. A total of 15 minutes for all speakers will be provided. Pat, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Blue Crowley's in the boardroom.
Go ahead, Mr. Crowley.
Thank you. If you would check out agenda item 3 in your packets, you will see that it has,
Can you hear me?
say that again. The, in your
Crowley's there.
packets, somebody's talking over me. Could we start this again? And in the packets,
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
okay, well, can we start it again? Because I'm wondering what these disturbances have been. Somebody's been interrupting and talking over me 3 times. Can you please restart the timer?
I'm sure Pat will be glad to oblige. Go ahead.
I'm waiting on that. Thank you. They are. All right. In your packets on the first page, you'll notice that 27th Avenue, 43rd Avenue don't have a connector to the bus. In fact, I don't see where, with the ones that you do have, where the bus stop would be an integral part of making it multimodal. When you do set the thing up, that a bus stop would be a part of it. And if you look at the 2, same thing. As I stated before, when you were doing the other part for the Capitol, where's the 15th Avenue stop? Well, we're making sure that we're not that much in conflict with the roadway and with the wishes of those inside of that corridor. Well, you mean anybody that's using the 15th Avenue bus didn't want to be able to connect to the light rail or conveniently, and we'll say people walking, et cetera. Well, yeah, anytime you get off the rail, what you have to be is a pedestrian first. And the thing you want to do is make it inconvenient for your ridership. Why aren't these a part of what you are doing? Why aren't they a part of you doing stuff for your ridership? When I see things like that, facial recognition system that our security people got put in, I keep on scratching my head and say, how does that help me as a rider? Especially when there are so much other things that you are lacking in doing. And on the 21st, one of your stations has an art project in it. And on the 21st of every month, that art project does something. What it does is it's a series of holes in sculptures that light up a medallion, which they've been taken and not replaced. But the way your rules are that its destination, am I going to have a problem going to that? Am I going to have one of Allied Burton's people saying, you can't be here? Well, it's one of the do's and don'ts. And I'm still requesting a copy of the things you can and can't do on the light rail. And since I'm having such a hard time getting it, when you see the stuff that it says the security people have done, and it's 350 have been stopped for code violations, where's a copy of the code so we can know that a menstruating woman or a baby defecating in its diaper can be kicked off because those things are unacceptable? Have a pleasant.
Now, do we have any other speakers? All right, we'll now move to the consent agenda. Consent agenda is presented for action. Are there any questions or items that need to be pulled for separate discussion for the consent? If not, we'll request a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda and forward the items to the board of directors for approval. Do I have a motion for approval?
This is Mario from Phoenix. Move approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Ryan and Chandler, second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second for approval. We'll ask Pat to take a roll call vote. Pat?
City of Chandler,
Yes.
City of Mesa,
Yes.
City of Phoenix,
Yes.
and City of Tempe.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Pat. We'll now move to item 3, I-10 West Extension, amended locally preferred alternative and transit type. Mr. Smith, you're presenting this item?
Henry Ikwadukwa, our capital development director, will introduce this item. Henry, I don't know who's doing the actual presentation.
Omar Peters, manager of capital planning, is here to make the presentation in the boardroom.
Okay, Omar, we'll turn over to Omar Peters.
I'll actually turn it over to Josh Matthews. He's manager of the I-10 West project.
Okay, and Josh, who are you going to turn it over to?
Pat, you're next.
I'm a little blind here in the basement. I can't see who's there. So go ahead, Josh.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee, Scott, Henry, and Omar. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today on the I-10 West extension regarding the revised alignment and transit type recommendation. As everyone said, my name is Joshua Matthews, and I am the project manager for the I-10 West extension. Go to the next slide, please. I think everyone is familiar with our regional high-capacity transit system, but just to provide us a reference point, we're talking about the I-10 West extension, which is identified in our regional transportation plan, serving the West Valley and West Phoenix areas along the Interstate 10 corridor. Next slide. The I-10 West extension has a very unique purpose when compared to our other high-capacity transit projects. I think a lot of us are familiar with the current vehicle congestion along the Interstate 10 corridor, especially west of downtown Phoenix. We really see an opportunity with this project to provide an alternative mode of transportation for these riders. We also see this project as providing more reliable travel times. You know, the typical travel time along this corridor is about 40 minutes from downtown Phoenix to 79th Avenue for a car or for an express bus, but that can be very unreliable and obviously with accidents and other issues can cause big fluctuations in that travel time. So we see this project as being able to provide a shorter and much more reliable travel time for our riders. Next slide. In 2012, Phoenix City Council and Valley Metro Board of Directors approved a locally preferred alternative for what was then known as the Capital I-10 West Extension, Phase 1 and Phase 2. As we did go to this body and Valley Metro's board, as well as City Council in the last few months, it was noted that these projects were split in two and are no longer called Phase 1 and Phase 2. We have the capital extension going from downtown Phoenix out to the state capitol complex, and then the I-10 West portion going from the state capitol out to 79th Avenue. Phoenix City Council did update the LPA in November of 2021, and that is the item that we're going to be discussing today. So the next slide, please. In April of 2019, Valley Metro staff and Phoenix City staff received a directive from City Council asking us to look at a number of items regarding the I-10 West extension. They asked us to re-engage the public, to look at extending the LPA to Desert Sky Transit Center, look at other transit modes for this corridor, look at options to accelerate the project, look at funding, as well as engage our West Valley cities. If you could do one click, please. The items we're going to be talking about today are the first 3 bullet points, and just wanted to note that the last 3 will be items that we will address after today and after the action that is taken. Go to the next slide. Next slide. Over the last couple of years, we have engaged both the public and our stakeholders along the I-10 West corridor. We went through a pretty robust outreach process that was requested by City Council starting in the middle of 2019, and really the formal process going until the end of 2020, but continued engagement since then. Go to the next slide. And then one click. In January of 2020, we hosted 3 public meetings that were in reference to both the capital extension and the I-10 West extension. These public meetings were held at various locations along the corridor. This was right before the COVID-19 pandemic, so it was our last in-person public meetings. During those meetings, we presented on the rich and diverse history of this project, the current status and what we are trying to look at, as well as talked about the potential extension to Desert Sky Transit Center, as well as the options to advance completion of the project. Next slide. You can click, there you go. As I said, when COVID-19 hit in March of 2020, we had to pivot from in-person engagement to virtual engagement. In the summer of 2020, we went back to the public. We had an online website that the public could access for over a month. We also, for residents who did not have access to the internet, we hosted 2 live call-in sessions where people could call in and ask questions, and we could provide them with information. Again, during this month, we provided the history of the project, the status. We also talked about the transit type analysis, and we talked about the extension to Desert Sky Transit Center. Go to the next slide, please. So I will, as I go through the technical analysis here, also mention the results of that public outreach and what we heard from our community. For the first part, we'll talk about the extension to Desert Sky Transit Center. As you see here on the map, the current 2012 LPA end of line was at the existing 79th Avenue Park and Ride, which is just south of McDowell on 79th Avenue, just north of the I-10. And so we are looking to extend the alignment north, approximately a mile up to the existing Desert Sky Transit Center. And so the technical team, the project team, performed a technical analysis to look at the viability and feasibility of this extension. And we saw a lot of positive results. First and foremost, we saw almost 20% more riders being attracted to the project because we have engaged closer to the community assets. We also, in discussions with the Maryville community, saw that this was a priority for them. It's identified in the Maryville Village Core Urban Design Plan to extend the project north along 79th Avenue into their core and to connect into these activity centers that are located along 79th Avenue, including Desert Sky Mall, the Auction Pavilion, as well as a number of schools and new developments and apartment complexes. And then lastly, Desert Sky Transit Center provides a robust connection to existing bus services, as well as what Phoenix is looking into right now, a possible extension or a possible establishment of a BRT line that would serve Desert Sky Transit Center. So it provides a lot of opportunities for multimodal connections within the Maryville community. Go to the next slide, please. And then one more click, thank you. And so the community input, go back one, please, sorry. The community input, like I mentioned earlier, in January of 2020 and May and June of 2020, we asked the the residents what they thought of this extension, presented the technical analysis, and asked what they thought. As you can see, we received almost 400 responses on this question, with approximately 80% of those total responses being in favor of this extension. So an overwhelmingly positive response from the community. I'll go to the next slide. So based on that technical analysis and the community response, the project team is recommending that we extend the LPA north a mile to Desert Sky Transit Center. Go to the next slide, please. The second component that we looked at was the transit type analysis as requested by Phoenix City Council. The 2012 LPA identified light rail as the preferred mode or transit type for the project. And as part of that council request, we wanted to both look back at that question from a light rail perspective, but also do a comparative analysis for another high capacity transit option, which is bus rapid transit or an exclusive busway. Go to the next slide, please. This technical analysis was very robust. It was a comparative analysis looking at the costs and benefits of both of these options. We looked at ridership potential, capital and operating cost, constructability, operational characteristics, consistency with local plans and policies, economic development potential, and community input. I won't get into every one of the results, but just wanted to highlight some of the key things that the technical team saw as we went through our analysis. Light rail is a bigger attractor from our modeling. Approximately 50% more riders are attracted to light rail than BRT along the same corridor. However, BRT has a lower upfront cost in order to build, and it has fewer construction challenges. The comparison between putting in a light rail guideway versus a asphalt busway. But operationally, we saw light rail as being able to feed into the capital extension and the overall existing light rail system, being able to provide that one-seat ride from the West Valley through downtown Phoenix, downtown Tempe, downtown Mesa, and out into the East Valley as being a really big benefit for light rail. Looking at the local plans and policies that have been placed over the last 10 years, we saw that light rail was preferred and has been identified in a number of those plans and policies. Light rail also has a higher development potential as it is seen as being more attractive and more fixed and more noticeable. And then lastly, and I'll get into this on the next slide, there was a strong community preference for light rail when asked the question. So if you go to the next slide, please. So at that second engagement in the summer of 2020, we asked the question to the public whether they would prefer light rail or bus rapid transit. As you can see, 3/4 of the 150 people that responded preferred light rail, with another 8% saying that they had no preference whatsoever. So again, an overwhelming response and preference for light rail. Go to the next slide. So based on those technical analysis, as well as the input that we received from the community and from our stakeholders, we are recommending that this be the new LPA map for 10 West and that light rail be the transit type for this project. If you go to the next slide. The formal recommendation that we're requesting today, staff recommends that the RMC forward to the Board of Directors approval of the extension to Desert Sky Transit Center and reaffirm light rail as a transit type for the 10 West amended locally preferred alternative. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak, and I'm happy to answer any questions or hear any comments that the committee has.
Thank you, Josh. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, this is Mario.
Yes, Mario, go ahead.
Just got a few comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Joshua, for the presentation. Just want to let everyone know that Phoenix is very excited to be moving this forward and glad to confirm that light rail is the appropriate transit mode to move forward here. We're excited for the opportunity also to extend to the Desert Sky Transit Center, also right next to the Desert Sky Mall, especially now after seeing what the future light rail at Metro Center is going to do for redevelopment at that, what used to be the Metro Center Mall. So that's really exciting for us. We appreciate the work that Valley Metro did working with the City of Phoenix on the community input process. And as you saw, there was a great deal of community support for this recommendation. We know that West Valley residents and commuters are going to be very pleased with this once it gets operating. So I will be very enthusiastically making a motion for staff's recommendation for approval.
Thank you, Mario. Hey, Mario and Josh, just a quick question. Will you get that input on these community outreach? Is there a way to determine how many of them are coming from businesses that are going to be impacted by light rail construction? Because I know Mesa went through this, South Phoenix went through this. Everybody's really excited about it. And then we start construction and then the businesses go, wait a minute, what are you doing to me? So I'm just curious, is there a way to parse through those responses or gauge where the business is, what kind of input we got from those? I mean, I think it's a great idea. I just think sometimes it's good to know early on what you're going to have to deal with if there's going to be challenges from the local businesses that might be affected by construction.
Thank you, Chair, for the question. I'll take the first crack at it, but happy to let Mario and others answer. There is, and our community relations team, as we engage the public, do track both who the stakeholders are and who they represent, whether it be themselves as local residents or businesses, the school districts, as well as the ADOT and other key stakeholders that have significant property. I'll note one of the benefits of this project and one of the big differences versus our other high-capacity transit projects is we are generally following ADOT property for most of this alignment. And the other big portion, 79th Avenue, we have engaged significantly with all of the property owners along 79th Avenue, as well as the businesses and school districts that are along there. So we have received robust input over the last 6 months from those entities.
Good. Okay. We want to make sure we go in, make sure everybody knows what's happening. So that's good. So we have Mario gave us a motion, right? Correct? Mario, that was a motion for approval. We need a second. We have a second.
I'll make that second.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Steven. So we have a motion, a second for approval for item 3. Pat will take a roll call vote.
City of Chandler,
Yes.
City of Mesa,
Yes.
City of Phoenix,
Yes.
and City of Tempe.
Yes.
Okay, that motion.
Motion is approved, Chair.
Thank you, Pat. We'll now move to item 4, Valley Metro Rail fiscal year 2022 mid-year budget adjustment. Mr. Smith, do you have this one or?
Well, Mr. Chair, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Tyler Olson, who I know is in the boardroom there, and he will handle this. Tyler?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Scott. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the Rail Management Committee. I will be presenting our request for mid-year budget adjustment to the Valley Metro Rail FY22 annual operating capital budget. As you know, we develop our annual budget 9 months ahead of the fiscal year start, using our best assumptions at that time. The adjustments I'm about to present are really just a true up of those assumptions and timing of some of our capital construction activities, ensuring that we have enough annual authority to cover those costs. These adjustments were presented to your city staff through the financial working group, as well as provided to the RTAG group. On the operating side of things, annual expenditures for light rail operations have increased based on the recent commercial property and liability insurance renewal. If you remember, that was approved by the committees and boards during the joint meeting in November of 21. The overall premium increase really is a function of multiple factors, including the increased exposures associated with expanding transportation network for light rail, some of the rail vehicle incidents and loss history, as well as what you all have seen at your cities around the hardening of the insurance market, limited opportunities for transit risk coverage because of the declining number of insurers willing to offer coverage to transit providers and public entities. So that's an adjustment of $1 million, just over. On the sources of funds, the entire 1.1 million is programmed to be funded with member city contributions. Although I want to note that we do anticipate keeping your cities within your approved IGA amounts for the fiscal year. We know that we do have some year-to-date savings in transportation, particularly our transportation contractor and propulsion power, primarily due to operating 15-minute headways while planning to, we've budgeted 12-minute headways. So we definitely have some savings there, and we will continue to look for savings to keep you all within the budget. We're purely adding this amount just in case we need it. So yeah, increase of 1.1%. Next slide. Again, 1.1 million, 1%. Next slide. Moving on to the capital construction projects. It's important to note that these projects cover multiple years, really just truing up the amount to spend for the remainder of this fiscal year based on the timing of the construction activities. These projects are still within their overall multi-year project budgets. Tempe streetcar increasing by 10.6 million, primarily due to realigning vehicle milestone payments for the new fleet, for the Brookville fleet, to more accurately reflect the updated delivery schedule. The remainder of the increase is due to various project enhancements, including signals, drainage, safety, operational improvements that will be funded with the capital improvement grant money from the American Rescue Plan Act, who will supplant the PTF funding that was allocated to the project. For the South Central project, almost 27 million increase. It's really primarily due to work the construction contractor is completing, increased utility work, additional archaeological support, and really working faster than planned for the fiscal year. The remainder of the capital adjustment is for Northwest Phase 2, just over 7 million. That's really primarily the result of receiving an updated cash flow forecast from our contractor, as well as to address quantity differences in the finalized design. But again, all projects are still within the control budget for the multiple years. Next slide. So for sources of funds, really primarily funded with federal funding, 19.4 million, and additional ARPA COVID relief money of 3.1, and really pulling those funds down a bit sooner than planned, however, still overall within the plan. And so on the expense side of things, asking for another 44.7 million as a result of those timing differences, so a 10% increase to the capital budget. So with that, staff recommends that the RMC forward to the Board of Directors authorization of the mid-year budget adjustment update to the Valley Metro Rail and operating capital budget for FY22. That does conclude my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do you have any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval for item 4.
This is Mario. I move approval.
Thank you, Mario. We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, this is Stephen. Move to second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Pat, will you provide a roll call vote, please?
City of Chandler,
Aye.
City of Mesa,
Yes.
City of Phoenix,
Yes.
and City of Tempe.
Yes.
Very good. So we have
The motion
approval.
passes.
Thank you, Pat. All right, item 5, future agenda items, request report on current events. Do we have any items that need to be brought for the board? If not, the next meeting will be for the RMC is scheduled for Wednesday, February 2nd in 2022, 11 a.m. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Pat. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Thanks.
Thanks all.